Adrian Taylor woke before dawn, the alarm ringing beside him in his modest rented room tucked deep within a quiet Westminster lane in London. Pale yellow light danced across the walls, reflecting on his still sleepy face. Silently, he switched off the alarm and swung his legs over the edge of his small wooden bed. He glanced at the top academic achiever certificate propped on his desk and allowed himself a confident smile. To most, Adrian was a prodigy. From primary school onward he excelled, winning admission to St. Andrews by an IQ test that impressed his teachers. At that prestigious secondary school he proved equally brilliant in maths, physics, chemistry, and literature, almost perfect scores all around. But few knew of the long nights he stayed up studying until the early hours, of the times he hauled his backpack to the computer lab to tinker with code, or of the moments he stood in the breezy corridor dreaming up world-changing tech projects. Breakfast for Adrian was merely a slice of dark bread smeared with almond butter and a cup of black coffee, enough fuel for his journey to school. He donned his handcrafted dark blue vest suit, tailored trousers, and neatly combed auburn hair, a look both serious and with a hint of a rogue's flair. Slinging on his backpack, he unlocked his vintage bicycle and pedaled off. Through the morning mist, the St. Andrews clock tower loomed in the distance, heralding the promise of a new day. Up on the second-floor corridor, Emma Johnson hurried along, tugging a large tote of notebooks and sighing softly. She was enrolled in evening English classes, so she grabbed every spare minute to intern at the school newspaper, writing for its literature column. Since the first time Adrian fixed a stubborn virus on her laptop during break, she'd harbored a special fondness for the academic icon. Her dark brown eyes glimmered with longing as she watched him enter the computer lab. She dreamed of asking him for a simple park stroll, sharing research passions, or at least chatting about her unfinished novel. But shyness held her back. She contented herself with watching him tap code and compose commands, rather than confessing directly. The hum of keyboards and the lab's air conditioner merged into a technology symphony. Adrian and a few close friends were testing a Python script for their Connect IT project, a platform linking IT students with programming experts. They'd just completed a demo and planned to launch over the summer break. Drawn by the ambition to make an impact and build a community, Adrian even gave up lunch breaks to brainstorm with his team. On the table lay printed code listings, lines of logic mapping their path forward. Adrian's lips curved into a slight grin as he spotted and corrected a syntax error. His teammates scrambled for solutions, but it was Adrian's meticulous attention to detail that earned their respect. Behind him, Emma quietly photographed the whiteboard notes and jotted them into her secret notebook. Class ended, and the afternoon sun painted the walls a warm orange. Adrian cycled past Westminster Abbey, where his mother, Margaret Taylor, awaited his "Are you home yet?" text each evening. A single parent running a small restaurant down the street, she managed their expenses but worried every time she saw Adrian racing through so many obligations. In a nearby cafe, Emma wrapped up her teaching shift. She flipped open her notebook at the photo of Adrian she'd snapped, then gazed at her phone. She longed to ask for his help, perhaps to record an interview once Connect IT launched, but hesitated, fearing to disturb his polished genius image. On the bus ride home, Adrian sat by the window among bustling commuters, mulling over Connect IT's prospects. Could it succeed? Could he found a company before graduation? The pressure was immense, but so was the drive. Unnoticed, Emma boarded at the next stop, spotting him engrossed in Python code. She fumbled for her phone, then texted, "Adrian, can we meet at the coffee shop opposite the library tomorrow at 6 p.m? I need your advice on something." She sent it and exhaled, just as her roommate peeked in. "Emma, why are you so red in the face?" When the bus reached the last stop, Adrian shouldered his pack and glanced at the electronic sign, "Tomorrow, Baker Street left turns banned. Please plan accordingly." He chuckled at London's quirks. Everyone complained, yet the city was in his veins. Taxi horns and street lights lit the calm evening. A pouch of chamomile tea nestled in his bag, and Adrian knew there was much to do. Meanwhile, Emma's heart skipped in anticipation of tomorrow's meeting. Neither knew what awaited, but both believed, life's greatest turns come when you muster the courage to pursue them. Spring in London teased with gentle breezes, but Adrian Taylor's mind buzzed with anxiety. Connect IT faced its critical phase. In 2 weeks they would pitch to first-round investors. In the clutter of Lab 201 at Imperial College's Computer Science Building, where he once won first place at a hackathon, Adrian, Lucas, and Mia had poured 3 months of relentless effort. Books, laptops, and half-drunk coffees lay strewn about as they prepared. Early one morning, Adrian received confirmation of the pitch with Horizon Ventures. Elated, he polished slides, rehearsed his script, and printed colorful brochures. Everything seemed in place, almost enough to make him forget the staggering sum at stake, hundreds of thousands of pounds that would shape their future. The night before the pitch, Adrian barely slept. He set his alarm for 5 a.m. and reviewed the demo on his laptop in bed, the white glare of the screen illuminating his solemn face. Market analysis charts and projected revenue curves scrolled by. He nodded, convinced. But a small inner voice warned, startup worlds brim with surprises. Pitch day arrived. In Horizon Ventures' cozy meeting room, veteran investor Simon Hale sat front and center. Adrian strode on stage, greeted the audience with a confident smile and clear voice, and outlined how Connect IT would link students with mentors, demoed real-use scenarios, and highlighted their unique mentor-mentee network. The demo ran flawlessly, user-friendly interface, simulated revenue growth of 30% per quarter. As he clicked through the final slide, soft applause filled the room. Simon Hale nodded approvingly. Great idea, capable team. Let's discuss funding details. A euphoria washed over Adrian, his future looked boundless. But joy proved fleeting. 3 days later, Lucas burst into the lab pale as a ghost. He clutched a private finance notice, over £250,000 in high-interest loans, for which Adrian's name was co-signed, taken out without his knowledge. Horizon Ventures immediately froze negotiations, demanding full disclosure of the debt. That night, Adrian lay awake, staring at the ceiling as streetlight streaks cut through his curtains. The debt felt like ruin magnified. He'd been betrayed by his own friends, 18 months of sleepless research, countless code fixes, collapsed in an instant. On the drive home, his phone rang with dire news from the hospital. His mother, Margaret Taylor, had been admitted in critical condition. Stage 4 cancer, the doctor said. It was sudden and brutal. Adrenaline surged through him. He messaged Lucas and Mia for a brief leave, packed only what he needed, and headed home to tend his mother. The startup dream would wait. At the small Westminster flat, he found his mother pale but smiling when she saw him. Taking her hand, he choked out, "Mom, I'm here." She squeezed his fingers weakly. "My son. Be strong." From that moment, Adrian set aside ambitions of Connect IT. He started a freelance computer repair service, Adrian's IT Repair, from their living room. It barely covered hospital bills and rent, but it kept mother and son afloat. Mornings found him attending selective lectures at Imperial. Afternoons he visited clients to replace hard drives, remove viruses, and reinstall operating systems. His small joy came from Emma, who by now taught English at a nearby international school. She'd drop by with pastries or a new book, often asking Adrian to install translation software or fix the classroom internet. Each time, his smile returned a little, though worries over his failed project and mother's health still weighed heavily. The road ahead was steep, but Adrian held tight to one fierce hope: he would clear the debt, rebuild his career, and give his mother peace. And with Emma's silent support forever at his side, He dared to believe that the slow steps of computer repairs would lead to a new beginning. Emma Johnson finished her weekend teaching shift at Kensington International High School, stepping out into the golden-hued sky of early evening. She thought back to the first time she'd seen Adrian through the classroom window when he came to fix the library computer, a moment that gently brushed her heart and ignited her desire to be near this scholarly young man, though she'd never dared approach him directly. After graduating in journalism, Emma had weighed her career options: join a prestigious newspaper or work for a television network. But fierce competition and the wish to remain close to Adrian led her to accept an English teaching post at the international school near Westminster, where Adrian and his mother lived. Teaching offered a stable income and a flexible schedule that allowed her to discreetly observe his daily life. Every Monday morning she awoke at 5:30 a.m. for a jog around Hyde Park, then returned home to brew a cup of herbal tea and prepare her lesson plans. Her modest second-floor flat in the historic neighborhood was cozy, lined with novels and drafts of her own stories. On a shelf stood a worn leather journal stamped with the words "May this note stir the heart of the one who wanders," a silent promise to persist in loving Adrian, no matter where life's turns might take them. Teaching brought Emma satisfaction as she watched her students improve week by week. She leveraged her writing background to craft imaginative assignments, encouraging creative storytelling in English. In literature discussions she wove in references to TikTok and YouTube, making lessons relatable. Many students later sought her help polishing essays, some even sending handwritten thank you notes praising her dedication. Yet Emma's thoughts often drifted to Adrian. She remembered him entering the school library, eyes scanning the shelves before pulling out his laptop to troubleshoot a technical glitch. His calm poise and courteous smile had captured her attention immediately. She kept the candid photos she'd taken of him in her phone, though she never dared share them, fearing to intrude on his privacy. In recent afternoons, when her workload lightened, Emma made her way to Books and Bites Cafe at St. Martin's Corner, the place where they once exchanged emails about software installation. She'd order an almond milk latte and wait by the window, hoping to glimpse him among the passers-by, a student in a striped hoodie, a petite teacher, a book-laden schoolgirl, but never Adrian. In her notebook, Emma had meticulously recorded, Adrian usually arrives at the cafe around 4:30 p.m., wearing a khaki jacket and Beats headphones. He orders a strong cappuccino and a croissant. She chuckled at her own seriousness. Yet she knew these little details might let her approach him more naturally, perhaps by bringing homemade butter cookies or a sticky note that read "Keep coding." Still, her courage faltered at the thought of speaking face to face, her heart threatening to race out of her chest. One drizzly afternoon, Emma spotted Adrian under a doorway canopy, black umbrella in hand, gazing at the gentle rain. When he saw her, he offered a polite smile and asked, "Emma, what brings you out here in the rain?" Flustered, she stammered, I came to the cafe to give you these instructions for your mother's new software." She winced at her clumsy words, but Adrian accepted the note gratefully, nodded, and shared a few tips for fixing a shaky internet connection. In that soft London rain, Emma felt her heart bloom. She vowed this encounter would not be in vain. A few days later she launched a targeted social media post about Connect IT for parents and students, tagging Adrian to boost awareness of his startup. Combining her journalism skills with a gentle touch in public relations, she sought to shine new light on his project even as he quietly stepped back. Over the weekend, Emma drafted a personalized invitation for a video interview. "Hello Adrian, I'm conducting a series on young startup journeys. I'm fascinated by Connect IT and would love to share your story. Could you spare 15 minutes to chat?" She sent the message and waited, breathless. That afternoon Adrian replied, "Sure. Next Wednesday at 6 p.m., Books and Bites. See you there." On Wednesday evening, Emma spent the day preparing her camera and questions about failure, new beginnings, family, and perseverance. She dressed in a white blouse and dark skirt, professional yet feminine. Arriving at the cafe, she found Adrian already seated, latte in hand, looking more optimistic than before. Their conversation flowed easily as he reflected, "I learned a lot from failure. Having responsibilities to my mother and my work forced me to become more decisive." Emma nodded, admiration shining in her eyes. When the interview ended, Emma thanked him and stepped outside, softly humming the lyrics of a favorite song. "A million stars shine for you, but your light outshines them all." Standing there, microphone and camera in hand, she felt the silent boundary between them dissolve. Now she was ready for the next chapter, revealing her mysterious journal and exploring the clues of her hidden affection together. One sunny June afternoon in London, Adrian Taylor began clearing out his mother's familiar flat. Mrs. Margaret Taylor had just been discharged after her chemotherapy treatments, and the family had decided to move to a new home near Regent's Park for easier care and relaxation. Their old apartment, 3B in Westminster, was to be rented out, so Adrian needed to pack away every remaining book, computer, and personal item. He opened a large corner cupboard where he kept startup documents, code drafts, and a few bedside books. Pushing aside some folders, he discovered an aged, discolored hardcover box tucked in the back. On its surface, faded ink markings from his final year of secondary school, 2016, had blurred over time. Curious, Adrian gently lifted the lid and was surprised to find an old leather-bound notebook stamped in metallic letters on its black cover, "Notebook, for Adrian." He picked up the notebook, stroking its worn edges. The cover bore a subtle floral embossment and a mysterious circular engraving resembling a compass, evoking both antiquity and elegance. With a slight tremor, he opened the first yellowed page and read in neat black ink, "To the one of rare talent, may he turn his path around." That phrase was delicately framed, and below it appeared the initials EJ in a flowing script. Adrian froze, staring at the words. EJ, but whose initials? He racked his memory for anyone who might have given him such a keepsake. He realized, however, he had never received a mysterious gift like this before. Questions flooded his mind. Why was the notebook addressed to him? What did "turn his path around" truly mean? And who was EJ? Could this be the very clue he needed to rediscover his purpose and find a new direction in life? Setting the notebook on the tea table, he studied the inscription again, hoping to recognize the handwriting. Putting aside the moving boxes, Adrian carried the notebook down to the living room and placed it on the coffee table. The space, littered with cardboard cartons and a wall-mounted TV, felt emptier than ever. Sunlight streamed through the window, separating the warmth inside from the bustling street outside. He turned to the first page and saw the words "Begin here," dated December 3, 2018. Below was a rough sketch of Westminster, with locations circled in red: St. Andrew's Library, Books and Bites Cafe, the Internet Cafe on Charing Cross Road. Places he visited often. The next line read, "Meeting of fate, for the one always lost in code." Adrian's breath caught. EJ had been following his footsteps. On a middle page, a late-night journal entry caught his eye. "Do you remember that autumn day in 2017, when you sat by the Thames writing code? I quietly sat beside you, reading and capturing the moment in photos." Beneath a small round black and white snapshot was the caption, "Did you see me?" Adrian smiled. Emma had indeed often sat nearby while he wrote code. Every detail matched. Instantly, he thought of Emma Johnson, the classmate who once asked him to fix her laptop during break, whose grateful eyes had lingered on him ever since. He pictured her soft waves of brown hair, bright eyes, and gentle smile. And now he realized, the mysterious EJ was Emma Johnson, the author of this notebook. He grabbed his phone and dialed her number. "Emma, I found an old notebook inscribed with EJ. It contains notes about me. Do you know anything about it? At her desk, Emma gasped. Where did you find it? Okay, I admit it. I made that notebook and secretly left it for you on graduation day. I wrote those messages hoping you wouldn't give up, even if you stumbled on your startup journey. She explained how, on the night of March 12, 2018, she had slipped into his flat to leave the notebook. She feared Adrian's wanderlust might lead him astray and wanted him to refocus on his promising tech path. The phrase "to the one of rare talent, may he turn his path around" had been her heartfelt encouragement to help him rediscover his own worth, and her own feelings. Adrian listened, his heart stirring. All the confusion of the past months suddenly made sense, her quiet care, her small acts of kindness, and her unwavering belief in him, even when he'd lost his way. He felt gratitude, and regret, that he had not recognized her support sooner. After the call, they agreed to meet at Books and Bites, the very cafe where their earlier memories had first intertwined. There, amid the tables and familiar aroma of coffee, they leafed through the notebook together, discussing every entry. Emma shared her long-term plan, to build a new venture blending technology with creative content, a platform for interactive storytelling and coding education. Adrian's eyes lit up as they sketched flowcharts, imagining how to engage learners through narrative-driven code challenges. That evening, under the cafe's warm glow, Adrian took Emma's hand. "Thank you for this notebook, and for everything you've done. I promise I won't give up again." Emma smiled, her heart full, knowing that the prodigal genius had finally returned, and that a bright new chapter awaited them both. At dawn on an early July morning, when golden sunlight streamed through the curtains of the Cowgate exhibition room and illumined swirling motes of dust in the air, Adrian and Emma met for their first planning session. Seated opposite each other at a warm wooden cafe table, two steaming lattes between them, they spread out notebooks, planning boards, and colorful sticky notes. Adrian felt a surge of excitement. After the debt crisis and his mother's illness, rediscovering the mysterious notebook had reconnected him with Emma, and opened the door to a fresh collaboration. He looked into her eyes and asked, "You sacrificed so much. Could you tell me more about the early days you were watching me?" Emma smiled shyly and lowered her voice. "Do you remember the Tech Fest Expo at the Royal Albert Hall in 2017? You stood enthralled at the VR booth trying new technology, and I sat in the back row taking notes. I wrote it all down as my first entry in that notebook." She flipped to the opening page and, her voice trembling slightly, continued, "I wanted to send you both my feelings and my faith in you when you were on the rise." Adrian listened, nodding. Every detail she recalled made the memory vivid, and revealed the depth of her quiet devotion. He realized that all those times she appeared at just the right moment, bringing tech books, delivering chamomile tea when he burned the midnight oil, were gentle gestures he hadn't noticed. Through the notebook, Emma shared her dream of combining their passions, technology and storytelling, into an interactive coding platform. She proposed Learn by Story modules in which students would solve coding challenges to advance a narrative. Adrian's eyes lit up. He grabbed a pen and sketched a flowchart showing how users could practice code while immersed in a fictional world. That afternoon, they returned to the small workspace at Hub at 495, where Adrian had registered as a member. Between rows of laptops and bulletin boards, they drafted a proposal. Emma would handle the story scripts and interactive scenarios, Adrian would lead the code and gamified interface. Together they set a timeline for prototyping and internal testing. The London night grew still as they worked late. Under the glow of their screens, they exchanged ideas in Slack and Trello, assigning tasks and deadlines. Emma savored the steady presence of Adrian beside her, her heart racing, for the project, and for their closeness. That weekend, Adrian invited Emma, and his mother, to visit his new apartment by Regent's Park. Mrs. Taylor, Recovering and reading a gifted book on soft skills by Emma, greeted her with warmth. "Emma, you've helped Adrian so much. Thank you for your sincere care." Emma blushed, and Mrs. Taylor added with knowing eyes, "Trust that Adrian will succeed. And hold on to that love you share." Back at the hub, Adrian received an unexpected call from his old Horizon Ventures contacts. They wanted to discuss a possible follow-up investment in the new venture. Though preliminary, it was a tremendous boost. Adrian shared the news with Emma, whose eyes sparkled with pride and hope. 2 days later they pitched to investors. Emma presented slides on the interactive storytelling concept, complete with gamification examples. Adrian demoed their prototype Escape from the Haunted Library. By the end, veteran investor Simon Hale offered, "This model is promising. We'll seed £150,000 to build an MVP and recruit content collaborators." They celebrated, clasping hands in joy, proof that surviving the storm had made their partnership stronger. By mid-August, as the Stories and Code MVP neared completion, Adrian and Emma launched their first internal alpha test at Hub at 495. Desks were arranged around a large monitor for user flow testing, a Kanban board listed features, and dozens of invited testers gathered to try the platform. After 2 months of coding, scripting, and design, they finally saw real users interact. On Monday morning, Adrian ran the Escape from the Haunted Library story sequence for the testers. Participants delighted in discovering map fragments and solving code puzzles to unlock virtual classroom doors. Emma took notes on story feedback and difficulty balance. Everything went smoothly, until that afternoon. Emma received disturbing messages from the testers. An anonymous blog post alleged that Stories and Code had plagiarized core code from an open-source framework released 2 years earlier. Soon the hashtag stolen code surfaced on Twitter and Discord channels where Adrian was known. Emma called an emergency meeting. In that small room, Adrian stared at blurry screenshots showing identical code, his hands trembling. He had written every line himself in 2018, he knew there was no copy and paste. Emma wiped away tears and urged him, "We'll prove the truth. I'll investigate. You lock down the server and make the repository private." Emma dove into digital forensics. She traced metadata, enlisted investigative journalist friends, and tried contacting the anonymous blogger. Meanwhile, Adrian meticulously printed and annotated side-by-side code comparisons, each function labeled a Taylor, 2018, and recruited Imperial College CS professors to verify the code's originality via GitHub archive commits dating back to 2018. Despite their efforts, tester participation plunged by 40% in 24 hours, and Horizon Ventures froze half of their committed funds pending proof. It felt like a second collapse, one they never expected so soon. That night, exhausted and defeated, Adrian recalled Emma's words, "We overcame debt betrayal, we can overcome this smear campaign." Those words ignited a small spark in his heart. Suddenly, a rival startup launched a competing product called CodeQuest, boasting a more polished narrative and a free trial. The community buzzed, who would win the gamified coding race? Bracing themselves, Adrian and Emma conceived a counterattack, a transparent hackathon. They would open invitees to contribute story modules and review code in public. This would showcase their integrity, foster community engagement, and attract talent. Adrian booked Imperial's lab. Emma invited renowned professors and mentors to judge. They announced the event with exciting prizes and the promise of internships at Stories and Code. The hackathon publicity went viral. On event day, the computer science auditorium overflowed with over 200 coders, designers, and storytellers. Teams tackled challenges such as write a spooky story branch or design an interactive map. The atmosphere buzzed with collaboration, cheers, and applause. By evening, the Mystery Mansion team won first prize for an especially gripping tale. Emma and Adrian received dozens of partnership inquiries, small investment offers, and heartfelt commendations. Horizon Ventures promptly reinstated 100% of their funding and added another £50,000 to the seed round. Tears flowed freely as Adrian embraced Emma. "I couldn't have done this without you," he choked out. Emma wiped his cheeks and whispered, "Our journey is just beginning, but we've already conquered the fire." In September, as autumn winds rustled golden leaves in Hyde Park, Adrian and Emma expanded Stories and Code into open beta. They set up at the Innovation Tower near King's Cross, preparing a pop-up on their website to invite public registrations. Emma tweeted the announcement, and within 48 hours over 1,200 users signed up: students, freelance developers, designers, and interactive story enthusiasts. Together, they sifted through the list and emailed step-by-step instructions on creating a first project, select a story template, write the code to unlock the next chapter, and share your results on our leaderboard. At Hub at 4:95, laptop screens glowed late into the night. Every completed challenge updated a physical post-it leaderboard: Alice_dev, 18 minutes, Coder Boy, 15 minutes, Tech Writer, 20 minutes. Emma moved among the tables, offering help via Slack. Adrian monitored the backend, scaling AWS instances to prevent crashes. That first beta night saw over 500 simultaneous visitors. When the server lagged, Adrian spun up additional instances and tweaked load balancers. Emma engaged users in the Discord voice channel, fostering camaraderie and troubleshooting issues. Over the next 3 days, usage data poured in, heatmaps showed heavy clicks on the Run Code button, and the Haunted Mansion story proved most engaging. They released patch 1.1, added narrative hints, refined the UI with warmer tones, and optimized compile times. Emma then posted a blog on dev.to recounting their open beta journey and thanking participants, prompting shares on LinkedIn. Adrian grinned at seeing their project tagged #stories and code, #learn to code with stories. Before bed, Adrian recorded a brief YouTube update: "Thanks for joining our beta, keep your feedback coming." It earned hundreds of views overnight. Feedback emails flooded Emma's inbox: "Love the concept, puzzle difficulty was perfect, please add more levels." She organized them into an Excel sheet: bug reports, feature requests, story ideas, and assigned tasks to 2 designers, 3 freelance developers, and a narrative editor. That weekend, they hosted a celebration at Loving Cup Cafe near Regent's Park. Mrs. Taylor squeezed Adrian's hand: "You've done well. Seeing you happy brings me peace." Emma smiled, warmed by family support, and realized Stories and Code had become more than work. It was a bridge between hearts, technology, and imagination. Looking back on their open beta, 1,200 sign-ups, hundreds of bug fixes, and a polished patch, they exhaled in relief. Their journey had just begun, but their first steps were firmly planted. Autumn truly arrived as chilly breezes stirred Kensington's yellow leaves. Stories and Code, now past open beta, secured its first institutional client, Manhattan Academy. A silver package, 10 licenses for 20 classes, brought in £15,000 but came with strict GDPR, OWASP compliance, and an LMS SDK integration requirement. From dawn till dusk, Hub at 4:95 echoed with keystrokes: Adrian configuring SSL certificates and WAF rules, junior developers implementing OAuth 2.0, Emma drafting privacy policies and tutorial videos for the Academy's IT staff. Against a tight 14-day deadline, they passed the third-party security audit and delivered a smooth SDK. Manhattan Academy promptly extended the contract to £50,000 per year, opening doors to other international schools. October's highlight was Demo Day at the Roundhouse, attended by 200 investors, mentors, and media. Adrian and Emma presented in sharp suits. A shoreel of thrilled students deciphering code puzzles rolled on screen. Emma addressed the crowd. Each story teaches code and fosters critical thinking and collaboration. Adrian live-coded a Python snippet that opened a 3D portal. The audience erupted in applause. BBC London interviewed them, and EdSurge ran a feature. Partnership inquiries poured in from Paris, Berlin, and Singapore. That night at a Paris office opening party, overlooking a glittering skyline, Adrian and Emma clasped hands. Mrs. Taylor toasted them in their new suburban garden home. "You've proven that love and effort are never in vain." Emma added with a smile, "And this is only our beginning." Amid their busy schedules, Adrian always carved out tender moments for Emma. At sunset along the Thames, they cycled side by side, her hair dancing in the breeze, as he paused on Waterloo Bridge to retrieve the old black notebook. Opening to the final page, he read, "Thank you for filling these pages with laughter and hope." Emma's eyes glistened with happiness. That evening they browsed at the London Review bookshop, where Emma's own novel on storytelling had just released. She pointed to her book and said, "I want to write the next chapter of our story." Adrian took her hand and whispered, "I'm sorry I stayed silent for so long. I love you more than any line of code." Their love grew gently, mornings spent crafting lattes together, late nights debugging demos with Emma asleep by his side, and weekends picnicking in Hyde Park with Mrs. Taylor. One rainy night, Adrian invited Emma to their old apartment to fix his mother's computer. In that book and paper-filled living room, he knelt, presenting a small box. Inside lay a silver ring engraved "Forever" and code. Emma burst into tears and nodded, "Yes, of course." Their engagement was a cozy gathering at Books and Bites, the birthplace of the Black Notebook, with friends, partners, and Mrs. Taylor witnessing their vow, "No matter where our coding journey takes us, we'll walk it together." 5 years later, Stories and Code operated branches in Paris and Berlin, serving over 50,000 learners across Europe. Adrian taught IT at Imperial College. Emma had authored 3 best-selling books on technology and storytelling. Mrs. Taylor, now strong and vibrant, ran her small London restaurant next to their headquarters, a beloved gathering spot for the team. Each morning, the family shared breakfast while planning the next product roadmap, AI-driven storylines, online workshops, and partnerships with global education centers. One May afternoon, Adrian and Emma returned to Flat 3B, now untouched since moving day. They retrieved the faded hardcover box and lifted out the black notebook. Its metallic inscription, "To the one of rare talent, may he turn his path around," had faded, but its meaning shone brighter than ever. Emma murmured, "We have turned that path together. Now let's write the next chapter." In the final scene, the couple sits side by side, pens in hand, poised to write. Chapter next, guiding the next generation of coders. Outside the window, London's golden sunset bathes the skyline in lavender, a timeless fairy tale of love and ambition, now brighter than ever. A warm late autumn morning spread over the garden behind their suburban London villa, where Adrian and Emma had settled after their wedding. Soft sunshine filtered through red maple leaves, illuminating a steaming cup of latte on a sturdy oak table. Mrs. Margaret Taylor hunched over a rose bush, humming a classical tune. Adrian repaired a white picket fence, and Emma prepared breakfast, strawberry-topped pancakes. Laughter echoed as their 1-year-old twins, Lily and Leo, played on a soft green rug. Lily's brown eyes tried out her first papa. And Adrian laughed while Leo, with impish grin, clung to Emma's legs. Emma set down her Earl Grey and sat beside Lily, gently stroking her daughter's hair. She looked at Adrian and asked softly, "Do you remember our first meeting in the St. Andrew's computer lab, when you fixed my virus-infected laptop?" Adrian nodded, smiling warmly. "I remember you standing in the hallway, hands trembling, that grateful look on your face. I was focused on code, but that moment stuck with me. Emma blushed, gazing at their children playing. I actually liked you from that moment, but I only dared record my feelings in that notebook. I was too afraid to come closer. Adrian placed his tool down and rested a hand on her shoulder. You never disturbed me. That notebook led me back to myself, rebuilt everything, and brought me to you. In that peaceful morning, they held hands as sparrows twittered nearby, joyful witnesses to their love. Lily crawled into Adrian's lap, calling Papa, while Leo wobbled into Emma's embrace. Their little family was serene yet full of life. Afternoons brought walks in Hyde Park with Mrs. Taylor, stops at books and bites for children's books, and cozy dinners under soft lamplight. They shared stories. Emma recalled writing winter poems in high school. Adrian remembered his first awe at Imperial's mountain of programming texts. Mrs. Taylor beamed, "You've overcome so much, now my wish is only for my grandchildren's happiness." Framed on the wall was their wedding portrait, Adrian in a black suit, Emma in white lace, both smiling tenderly. Below it, Lily and Leo's colorful crayon sketch of their family hung proudly. Emma placed her hands over her heart and whispered, "I love this family." One weekend morning, Adrian and Emma sat side by side watching their children play. He held the old black notebook, its leather now soft with age, and closed his eyes, murmuring, "We turned toward each other and found our way home. Now, let's keep writing our forever." Emma rested her head on his shoulder, sighing contentedly. The closing image is of their small family, laughter, love, and memories woven through everyday moments. London's grandeur mirrored through the window, but for Adrian and Emma, their true haven was here, a home where love blossomed and their story would continue without end.